Hello, everybody. This is Carla, and this time I'm here to do a review for episode 14 of season 3 of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This episode is titled Watchdogs, and I have to say I really, really liked it. I've always thought that the best episodes of S.H.I.E.L.D. are not necessarily the ones that deal with like alien threats and mutants and weird serial killers or enhanced people, but the ones that deal with the intrigue within S.H.I.E.L.D. Those are my favorite for me because, it's okay that S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of looks into the meta-human stuff, but just for me, the human side of things is a lot more interesting. I know I'm probably in the minority in this aspect, but I really do enjoy episodes that are just dealing with people and how people react to things and how those reactions lead them to there being friction with other people and stuff like that. I think those are the best episodes of S.H.I.E.L.D. honestly. Of course, everything among a veil of metahuman people with metahuman abilities, but still, it's episodes like these that I like the most, and I think that has a lot to do with why I like this episode so much, because it was really interesting to me. Not just the idea that there are groups that are not S.H.I.E.L.D. and are not Hydra that are getting involved in this thing, but also seeing how the agents who work for S.H.I.E.L.D. actually react to these threats. I was very happy we got to see more of Mac's background, because for the longest time, for a lot of season 2 and 3, I could never really get into Mac all that much. Like, for the longest time, I just didn't care much for him. He was kind of just there, It's only now that he's become Daisy's partner and that we've seen him, react to Coulson and be sort of like a foil to Coulson, to Coulson's more extreme decisions and stuff like that. That he's become a really interesting character to me. I didn't have that at the beginning. He was sort of just there to be a mechanic, I guess. But now I really do enjoy seeing him and just his reactions when Bobby and Hunter left in the previous episode. He was the one that really plunged a knife in my heart. It was his reaction that actually got to me. So yeah, he's grown on me a lot, and I was very glad to see a little bit of his background, because Coulson doesn't really have a family. May got divorced, and Fitz and Simmons never really fit in with other people, so they don't really have much friends outside of S.H.I.E.L.D. And of course, Daisy is an orphan, so she doesn't really have anybody. So it's good to see at least one of them has a family, a brother who looks up to him in a way. And even if they do, they still have, the usual sibling issues between them. Now they have to deal with the parents, and the brother lost his job, and blah blah blah. And on top of that, Mac has to lie to him on a daily basis, just because he can't reveal anything about S.H.I.E.L.D. because officially S.H.I.E.L.D. does not exist. And I think that was very interesting to me. I was almost afraid, halfway through the episode, that the brother would turn out to be one of the Watchdogs. I was like, oh my god, please don't do this. This is going to suck. And then I was completely convinced that the brother was going to die. Because every time, stuff like this happens, and they always end up, in the wrong place at the wrong time just because they're looking for their loved one. They end up in the wrong place in the wrong time. And I thought when he got to that place where the Watchdogs were meeting, and the ones that Mac and Daisy and Fitz were watching, when he got there on the bike, I'm like, damn, he's gonna die, isn't he? He's going to get himself killed. I'm glad he didn't. I'm really glad. I'm also glad that Mac didn't like nothing horrible happened to him, because I was afraid for a little bit at the end that he might actually die. But he was so cool, and his brother was so, like, normal. It was almost funny, because he was so, eager to just get out of the house and just cross whatever door without thinking what may be on the other side. And Mac is like, hey, get back here. And I was like, listen to your brother, you're gonna get yourself killed. And it was an amazing fight too. It was awesome to see Mac finally get his axe shotgun. That was fantastic. I loved that so much. And I really like the dynamic between the two. So I hope they get Mini Mac, to work for S.H.I.E.L.D. or something. He needs a job, right? So they might as well pull him in, since now they have, open spaces, and they're understaffed since Bobby and Hunter left, of course. Then there was the Lincoln thing, which honestly I really, really liked that subplot. I think that's the one that you should have heard me. It's almost embarrassing to admit this, but I'm that kind of person who yells at their screen whenever something is happening on a TV show that you just don't like, or that it's going to make things worse. I'm that kind of person who yells at the screen, okay? I have a tough time even keeping it in when I'm in the movies, and that's very embarrassing. But when I'm at home and just watching a TV show, I just let it loose, I'm just like, I'm yelling the entire freaking time. And I think with Lincoln, that was the most I've yelled in probably the entire season, or at least this half of the season so far. Like, in the last 4 episodes, that's the most I've yelled. Because you could see that Coulson was testing him. They go inside the place to look for Blake, and then, first Coulson is like, nope, you have to follow orders. Just follow orders, no matter what. That's what you have to do to prove that you really want to be part of S.H.I.E.L.D., blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, damn, they're going to go to Blake, and Lincoln is going to lose it for some reason, and he's going to get himself kicked out of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's going to suck. And then they got there, and at first Coulson was like, yeah, don't shoot him, don't. And Lincoln was actually doing well. So I was like, yeah, go Lincoln, you're following orders for once. That's awesome, you're going to pass this test. And then Coulson all of a sudden is like, nope, kill him. And I'm like, damn it, that is a test within a test, okay? It's like testception, however you want to say it. It's like a test within a test. And Lincoln was like, what? And I was like, don't do it, Lincoln. It's a test. He wants to know if you will follow orders that are crazy and insane. And you shouldn't. Because that's what a good agent does. They have to be able to think. So I was yelling at my screen, Lincoln, don't do it. And then all of a sudden he shoots electricity, and I wail. Like, I let out a wail. I'm like, no, Lincoln, why? I was really into this scene, okay? Thankfully, Coulson was, able to notice that it wasn't really a kill shot. So I guess Lincoln kind of did follow orders, but not entirely. So he passed the test, and I'm really glad that he passed the test. No, don't get me wrong. I still think that they're pushing Lincoln up to, dying at some point. I think that's where the writers are going. And I've been feeling this way for a couple episodes now, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to end up dead sometime this season. So I'm kind of mentally preparing for it. Not that it's going to, help me much, because it's still going to hurt like a bitch, because I'm like the one person in the entire universe who really loves Lincoln. I know nobody else does. I know I'm all alone in this. But I've assumed that, I love Lincoln. I don't want to see him die. And I think he's going to die. Okay? And that really sucks. But at least if he dies, I want it to be in a memorable way, in a worthy way. So I'm glad that he's actually, that Coulson is actually, that Lincoln is actually growing on Coulson, I guess. I would like for him to actually become part of the team, for real, and not just because of Daisy. So yeah, that was that. Um, then there was the whole, dealing with Inhumans thing, which honestly, I know a lot of people think that that Shield sort of like pushes the messages maybe a little bit too strong. Like they're not very subtle about it, in a sense. And I can see why. Like I don't tell people, oh, you're crazy. No, I know that they do. They do sometimes. But in this particular case, at least, um, I think was one case where they had to push those messages really, really strongly. Because episodes like this are sort of the reason why I'm so happy that S.H.I.E.L.D. is doing Inhumans. Because, and I've mentioned this like 70,000 times already. I'm sure you've heard it before whenever I talk about either like any Marvel properties whatsoever. My favorite comic book property of all time is the X-Men. That's kind of my thing. I like Marvel better, but I don't even really like all the other Marvel stuff. I just like the X-Men for the most part. This is one of the things that I love the most about the X-Men, and what made me love them in the first place, is that they are dealing constantly with themes of discrimination, of being feared because they're different. And I think that's a theme that resonates with audiences no matter when it's happening. Like, for example, when I first got into the X-Men in the 90s with the comic books and the TV show, the cartoon, I thought the theme of discrimination had a lot to do with, like, for example, HIV, because the 90s were a time where people with HIV were very, very maligned and stuff. So that was kind of what I thought when I was watching the X-Men, the cartoon, for example. It reminded me of people with HIV. Then maybe later in the 2000s, it became more about, the LGBT community for me. It's like the way the X-Men were rejected for being mutants was similarly the same way that the LGBT community or gay people and lesbians were rejected just for their sexual orientation. It felt like it resonated with me in that way. And nowadays, you could see it as maybe an example of that xenophobia and racism that is running rampant so much in the world right now, in this political climate that we have right now, where you have, on the one hand, you have extremists like ISIS just killing people left and right, out of some, I don't know, misguided idea of religious superiority or something. I'm not sure. And on the other hand, you have people like Donald Trump, who wants to build a wall between the U.S. and Mexico and wants to kill the families of all these awful terrorists. So it's like both sides are. You can obviously see that both sides are so extreme, and you can see that reflected in series like the X-Men, because you have so many different people with so many different positions, and you can sort of understand where they all come from, but you know that some of them are very extreme. Like, on the one hand you have, the regular people, the non-mutants, who want to maybe kill all the mutants, and on the other hand you have people like Magneto, who wants to kill all the non-mutants. So you can sort of see the theme in there, and X-Men it's a theme that always resonates no matter which time you're living in. So that's why they are my favorite. And the Inhumans are sort of the stand-in for Marvel for the X-Men, because Fox owned the rights to the mutants, so Marvel can't use mutants, and Inhumans are the closest thing. And I felt in this episode they were very much touching on the same themes that I feel the X-Men touch on. And yeah, okay, maybe it was a little bit too heavy-handed, but I think it should be, because some people don't get it. And I think if you can make people think with an episode of your TV show that also just happens to be entertaining, that's a win, no matter what. So I don't mind if it was heavy-handed or not. I really like the way they paralleled the things that are happening today, where one group of people think another group of people are, dangerous or whatever, and they react violently according to that. And even the people who are in the middle and the people who are looking for coexistence sometimes can get the mood just gets very, 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 very hot, and sometimes you lose track of things. Like, for example, Daisy in this episode, I thought that was really cool to see, because even if she's on the side of the good guys, quote unquote, she's still human. Or, I mean, she's inhuman, but she's a human being over everything else. And she can have her moments where she lets things get to her head, and she has a hard time believing or trying to understand how other people think. And sometimes she might push things. And it was funny because I saw a lot of her mother in her in this episode, and that was actually kind of creepy. Like the scene where she was sitting on in the car with the guy and blowing out all the windows, that was really scary. I had no idea that Chloe Bennett could be that scary, but she totally pulled it off. And yet, the show makes it obvious that even if she's doing that, it doesn't mean that she's right. You could see it in Fitz's face, for example. And I really like the entire metaphor, because I think it tells us a lot about what's going on in the world right now. And I think that's what, Marvel Mutants, and by extension the Inhumans, should be doing. So I really enjoyed this episode. I really do hope we get to see more of Mini Mac in the future, because I liked him. Looking forward to seeing what they do with Lincoln, at least before they kill him, because I'm pretty sure that he's going to die eventually. And I also really like that Gemma finally admitted out loud that she's feeling guilty about a lot of stuff, because that's kind of what I kept with me from the first half of the season, is that Gemma is just really guilty about not just Lash, but a lot of stuff, So I like that she admitted it. I like that she's helping May. And it was nice to see Blake again. I mean, I don't like the guy. He's a jerk and an idiot and so stupid to be played by Malik like this. But he's always been the kind of guy that I really love to hate. So it was nice to see him come back. And I really enjoyed this episode. It's definitely one of the best ones we've had in this half of the season so far, for sure. I really, really loved it. And I'm really, really happy that they're touching on very, very current themes while still making the episode very entertaining. So props to them. I really enjoyed it. And as an X-Men fan, they're making me very happy, even though they're Marvel. I don't care. It was a very good episode. So yeah, that's it for me today. As usual, be sure to visit our website at thegeekypub.com. We have reviews not just for the previous episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, but also for other TV shows, books, movies, games. We have a ton of stuff in there, so be sure to visit and check it out. And also, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like our videos, because most of the time they're up on YouTube first, even before they hit the website. So if you don't want to miss anything that we upload, then subscribing to our YouTube channel is what you have to do. And that's it for me today. I will see you guys in my next review. Bye.